Okay, so unfortunately, I don't have internet access in my house or in our neighborhood. So I'm doing it on the phone. So so let me ask this. Actually, Bear, do you have access to the Clarity page right now? I mean, are you in there?
No, but I think I can access and I can try to share the screen. Like
Yeah.
I'm in my computer, I'm in the TEC recorder profile, but I think I can share from there. So let me just give it a try.
Okay. If not, maybe somebody else can do it too. I printed out our itinerary for today because I had a feeling our internet would not be back up. So bear with me today. It's going to be a little bit more rocky than usual just because, yeah, having to work off paper. So, and can you let me know, Bear, when you have that up? Usually for people who are not regulars, hey, Jay, welcome. So for folks who are not regulars, one of the traditions that we've gotten into is just starting off by somebody reading the Sampo mission. And just because of the technical difficulties today, I'm just going to do that today. I don't usually do this, but I will do it right now. So Sampo mission. The Sampo working group develops and grows the value of the economic layer of the token engineering commons. It aligns this microeconomy with the TEC mission and the collective success and individual benefit of its token holders. Oh, awesome. That's great. Thank you, Bear. So that took us a couple of iterations. The tagline is shorter. It's basically Sampo grows the economic layer of the token engineering commons. So I had originally as like our check-in prompt, what's the most meaningful ways to acknowledge your contributions in a team like Sampo? But I think given that we have a slightly larger crew today, and given kind of like the attention that the Sampo proposal has gotten on the forum, I want to switch it to another question, and maybe we'll do that one next week. So my prompt today would be, how are you feeling about the conversation that's happening on the Sampo funding proposal in the forum right now? And I'm going to pass it to somebody in a sec, but if you haven't read that post or the comments, then just feel free to pass. Or if you just want to say something about the Sampo funding proposal in general, feel free to do that too. So I'm going to pass it to Gene first. And let's see if we can each limit this to like no more than like a minute and a half. Okay, Gene.
Sure, thanks, Gideon. Yeah, seems like there's some consensus around the need to earn in some mechanism immediately through. I guess we've decided that, and in some way that's yield farming is our first best option based on the funds that we already have established. So, but there's some controversy. It feels like around there, so it's a little bit hot, a little bit cold, and really not sure how to read it yet. I've reached out to a couple of people to see if I can speak to them individually and see if I can't find something closer to what their feelings are versus just relying on the forum. I went and did some research at Yearn to see if we can't establish that as the basis for the yield farming. I left a message on TEA's TEC channel to see if I can't get a little bit of a support group around treasury management going. So yeah, but I feel like it's good and bad. So that's poor answer, but that's what it feels like. And I will pass to Bear.
And let me just first welcome Angela. Hey, Angela, and
Angela.
CryptoZach.
Yeah, thank you, Gene. Yeah, so I think I haven't even finished to read all the comments, but so far what I've read is that I do feel like there are many concerns like coming from different people around the community, and you notice that like in the forum post, but also like throughout the different calls that are happening. So yeah, I think it becomes really relevant to start asking ourselves the right questions in order to find the information that we need. So I think that's a fundamental part of it. And then I think what we're doing in Sampo here, like with the funding proposal to like adjust on the different deliverables that we're gonna have, I think that's really good. I think that's exactly part of the advice process. So yeah, I think it's great. And I think just that sometimes I feel that one thing we would need is to have more time to have more conversations about this. I feel that sometimes it's a little restricted, and yeah, I think that needs to happen. So I'll just pass it to Chuy.
Thanks. Thanks, Bear. Well, yeah, pretty much what has been said, that we're still like reading like through some of the comments and reviewing the discussion around the funding proposal. I do think, however, that and I mean, at some point it has to be said, like especially for the stewards, we should all be like thinking in different solutions. And also, I feel that in embracing that this is like all like concern from everybody, and like talking openly about it, can at the same time like address this thing that Gideon says about, like putting like a lot of pressure on the expectations around the working group, when I feel that in a way we can all, like think creatively around different solutions and participate in this discussion. So yeah, I'll pass it to Livy.
Hi, everyone. I think I'm mostly on listening mode today. I'll pass back to you, Gideon.
Okay. Let's see. So let me pass it to, and for those who just jumped in, the prompt was, how are you feeling about the conversation on the Sampo funding proposal in the forum right now? So CryptoZac, do you want to take it? And if you're not familiar with if you haven't looked at the forum, then just feel free to comment on the proposal itself, or pass if you'd like.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the forum. What is the proposal?
Yeah, that's going to be too long to go into right now. It's the proposal that we talked about last week. It's now up on the forum. So you can also feel free to pass, or if you just have a comment about what we talked about last week, that's fine too.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass this one. I'll pass it to. Let's see. Hold on, I'm on my phone. This is kind of tough. Jeff, have you gone yet?
Yeah, I can jump in. I did read the forum post from last week. There may be a few, or from a couple weeks ago, there may have been a few replies that I haven't seen yet. All in all, though, I'm supportive of the Sampo working group finding these sort of economically beneficial collaborations for the Token Engineering Commons. And I feel like I'm I get a lot of requests, or I see a lot of requests, whether it's in the CAD community, or some of the other forums I'm a part of. I see a lot of groups that kind of need token engineering services, whether that's modelers or token engineers themselves, and various client projects, presumably from paying clients. So I'm really interested in sort of brokering these sort of connections between groups that need token engineering services and the Token Engineering Commons, and I see Angela's here as well. Basically, using the Token Engineering Academy model of bringing in paying clients and connecting them with upskilling token engineers or CAD modelers. And I have a feeling there's a lot of sort of fertile area to explore in bringing some economic benefit to the TEC, and that may not just be straight payments from clients. It could also be mutual investments and holding TEC or minimum amounts for collaborating in various ways. So yeah, interested to explore all that, but I don't want to go into too much detail now. And I think Angela is the last person to feedback on the forum post, so I'll pass it over to her.
Hello. So in general, of course, you can read my thoughts on the forum posts. I guess I'm probably one of those who say, hey, come on, let's not wait. Let's not be too slow, because sometimes you have to keep the momentum. I guess that's probably because also at TE Academy, I had to take a look at the funding situation now with the bear market kicking in, and I had to react and I had to cut down our spendings, and that's probably why it doesn't feel strange to me to do that, and maybe also that I know that sometimes you have to react quickly, and I guess if we are too slow in finding a new, adapt to this situation, this won't be beneficial to anyone. To those who are hoping to get their proposal through and we slow it down, I mean, they also want to know what's next for us in the next 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, and also for TEC overall. And that's why I guess I keep on pushing to be fast and to be radical.
I'll go since I haven't had a chance yet. I might be the last one though.
Tamara, sorry, I didn't know.
No problem. I'd say so. Just thoughts and feedbacks is that I think everyone agrees on the objective, but there's some contradictions, some contradictory paths to get there, and I think that's one of the challenges that Gideon is taking on, sort of, consolidating and helping choose a collective, or collectively choosing a decision on which direction to take or which path to take to get there. I think that I think what the forum post really surfaced is that there's many TEC stakeholders who become involved at this point of advice process, which is the community advice process on the forum post. And just as a note to myself, I wonder, wouldn't it be great if there was an advisory board where we could have these TEC stakeholders participate in some of these bigger decisions for the TEC a little earlier on the process? And that's something that the Stewards Working Group is looking to figure out how we can create. And then I think, the idea of going very lean, most especially in operation costs, is, I also think, really important, and not something that I think has been discounted by the upcoming proposals for some of the working groups. Stewards, notably, and the Communitas working group are two that have or really have shifted their compensation for these two working groups. And then I think out of the Stewards Weekly that we just had 2 hours before this, there was sort of a sentiment for not having the stewards design proposal like a policy for spending, but rather letting the mechanisms execute the way they were designed to execute. So conviction voting would get harder to pass more proposals as our spending goes down, rather than having there be a policy about spending that we give proposal makers. I don't think that came out clear, but it's a little late here. And I'll pass back to Gideon.
I want to comment on that, Tom, actually, because I think what we agreed on that call was quite some different. And the idea was, if we want to make proposals harder, it's not like we just wait and they become harder. And because if we have something like we want to save money, like what we should do as a community is just change those conviction voting parameters we have right now and make those that benefit the mission or the purpose we want to do, instead of applying some cultural thing like you cannot ask more than 10K or whatever thing we said on a forum post. And I also want to comment like some topic like it's for me it's very critical and we are not talking so much. It's like yeah, we're talking like treasury management and sending the funds to someone, some multisig, and this is very controversial because then our treasury wouldn't be owned by the token holders, but some group of people, and this is always so controversial, and especially what happens with the price lately. Like people were not able to even sell the impact hours or anything, and now tokens are vested. So it's like people have like no power to do their own, and it's like I feel like we should come like a solution like to manage our treasury in a token managed way. Yeah, back to you, Gideon.
Okay, thank you. We've got, I think, just three people who haven't gone yet. NT, do you want to go next?
Sure. I'll be quick. I don't really have like any particular opinion outside of what everyone has said. I think Tom was very spot on. Like we are looking for the same. We just haven't got to agree on how to do it. And but I'm happy that the conversation is happening in probably a timely manner. I don't think it's too late, and I'm sure we'll figure that out. And I'll pass it over to Rex. I think he hasn't gone yet.
I think the other mic wasn't working. So yes, I think so. Bear and I have kind of been trying to do some analysis to the kind of finances right over the last couple of weeks. So we'll have the kind of the Dune chart showing how much our funding has gone down by, our pools have gone down by since we started. But I do think, and I guess it's to some extent reiterating what others have said, that what I'm predominantly hearing is that, you know, the austerity part of Sampo needs to happen much more comprehensively than we were originally planning when we were doing it ourselves. So that's kind of what I have to say about it. And I'm not sure who's the last one that hasn't gone yet.
Nate, how about you?
Can you state the question again? I came a little late. I was just curious to know the prompt.
Sorry, I thought I was speaking. I had my mute on. I was just saying that the prompt, I changed the prompt, and it's now, how are you feeling about the conversation on the Sampo funding proposal up in the forum?
Good. I think, I think the conversation is going well. I do think that, outside of the funding proposal itself, there are a lot of things that we all need to kind of get aligned on. I think that the decisions we make cover a lot of different working groups, a overall strategy for the TEC, and I think this is, we're kind of searching for this quorum threshold to move in one direction or another, and I think we're in like kind of this static area where we're looking at all these different ideas, and I'm not sure where to go. And so I think that there's some core questions that need to be answered, and I think that we need to, in my opinion, I think the whole point is just to figure out how to make the ABC work. That is the fundamental problem that I think we should be trying to solve. And yeah, outside of that, I think we'll make individual decisions and group decisions, and it'll work out nicely. But getting those fundamental questions answered are really important, I think. So I'll just leave it at that and pass it back to you, Gideon.
Okay, thanks. And Bob, welcome to the Sampo call. The question, and you can feel free to pass if you don't know the answer to this, but the question is, how are you feeling about the conversation that's happening on the Sampo funding proposal in the forum?
Hi guys, I haven't looked at it. I just saw people here and decided to join, but I have no real like opinion on it yet. But I'll probably look at it this week. Thanks.
I don't know if you're muted, Gideon, or.
Wow, thank you. Yeah, it's just working off the phone. So my just a couple quick thoughts. So I'm feeling a fair amount of pressure right now. It's coming on kind of two fronts. The first is this question of how do we deal with our spending? And I really do feel like this is something that is more of a stewardship and governance question. And so we're working that through in today on the call in the stewardship group. That was I don't know if we really landed anywhere that is different from where we were going in, except that I do think there was this idea of maybe changing the proposals. And I think, Zepti, that may have been what you were referring to, is like changing some of the kind of the evaluations so that we really highlight how this proposal will really add to the value of the community and the commons. And then the second thing that I think we're trying to work through, and this is something, if we have time at the end, I'd like to get some thoughts on, is, we are going to have lots and lots of ideas about how we generate money. So one of the challenges I think that this group, and this I do think is more of a Sampo challenge, is how do we deal with keeping it open and keeping kind of a marketplace of ideas going, but without getting sidetracked and constantly changing our path. So I think that's going to be an important question that we're going to need to get through over the next few weeks. That's just like preview of coming attractions. So, okay, at this point, what I'd love to do is here, we'll just give a couple of updates. We know that the sample strategy and the manifesto are both up on the forum. Got a fair amount of comments on the proposal. That's also up there. The other thing, just the other update that would be great is Rex. Can you share your screen and give us a look at the unified Treasury chart?
Okay, is that working? That working okay?
Yeah, we see it.
Okay, awesome. Yes, so this is the culmination of a couple of weeks worth of me understanding the quirks of Dune and kind of making this chart. So this chart represents the balance per working group and in total over time since the first transaction recorded, which I believe was the 19th of January 2022. And it includes both TEC and XDAI, so that's why it's the TEC converted into XDAI. So quite a bit of the full, not all that you're seeing is the drop in the TEC value. If I take out the common reserve, because you can kind of separate them out and see how the funding has gone. And so yes, this is, I'm not sure if you have any questions. Basically started at 1.5 million at the start. And now we're at 800,000. So I can change the scales actually now that I'm looking at it. So I'll change the scale so you could see more. So it has more than like every 500,000. But yes. Not sure if you have any questions. I think the Dune things on, so the is being posted in the Sampo group, so you can see it there.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Rex. Yeah, I mean, if people have, if you have some comments on this or questions on or ideas on how you'd like to see this developed, just for people who are new to this call, because we've got a bunch of new people. The idea here was to get a unified view of all of the wallets, all the multi-sigs. And so that it's not just looking at the common pool, but we're looking at the common pool and all of the working groups and the laser tag and everything, and just so we can see a unified view. And so Rex has been off working this. He's learned doing analytics on his own and has been pulling this together. So yeah, so feel free to comment on the post that he's put into the Sampo channel. And Bear, do you want to share your screen and show the thing you're working on the accounting side? And also, I should say, for people who've been on these calls know this, but most of this work is going to end up moving. Anything that we're doing here will end up going over to transparency and the dashboard there. And the thing that Bear is about to show is really Sampo is more like an internal customer asking questions and things like that, but this work is really hosted or housed in transparency.
Yeah, thank you, Gideon. So just to clarify, you want like the accounting sheet that we're doing in transparency, right?
Yeah, if you can show that, I think just that dashboard mostly, but if you want, you can show just like a couple pages. I think it would be good to just do like, maybe 3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah, because like in transparency, what we've been working on is more of it's a different document. It's actually like an standard for working groups to record their different transactions. Maybe Septi or Rex could also show it or expand on that. And what I've been working on, or maybe.
Yeah, I've got both up. So,
oh, nice. Yeah, Rex can maybe show it. So that's the one. Yeah, if you want to explain that one, Rex, that would be good, sure. And I explain the other one.
Cool. And the other one's this one. I've got it up. So this one is trying to get to an accounting standard so that we can be more transparent within the working groups and see where the spending is actually going. And this is the first working group that we've turned into said standard, which is Gravity. And it has it's quite a few columns, but most of these kind of fill up quite a few of these fill up automatically. And from these, you then have dashboards, which are automatically generated from the transaction sheet. And it gives us insights into where the money's going, which I think is something that we haven't had yet, beside the original budget. And for Gravity, you can see pretty much all the money's going into administration operations. And what I've been seeing is pretty much the same for all the working groups. Yes, that's this one. There's cash flow per token per category, because it has categorization, and then the individuals and who's getting said money. But yes, that's one that we're trying to get all of the working groups onto the standard. I'm sure Septi can talk more about the process than I can, how we're going to go about this. But this is Bez. Barry, you want to take the lead?
Yeah, thank you, Rex. Yeah, so just in case, I'm also sharing my screen with this. So what I started with, it was actually working on the working group monthly expenses a couple of weeks ago. But then my plan was to actually be able to get like a general overview of the whole TEC's financials. So this is still a work in progress. I mean, it's still not done, and I would like to ask you if I will share the link in the Sampo thread. If you want to comment and have any questions, if you would like to see something here that maybe I'm missing, please do share that. And basically, what I did is just a couple of graphs based on different tabs that I've been working on. Each of these talking about different things. Maybe you can go into more detail. Take your time. But basically, here I can explain maybe the graphs. This one talks about the different distribution that we have in the TEC, like where the money is at the moment, the different expenses that working groups are having on a monthly basis. Here's the common pool balance. Maybe I would say that some of these graphs, like this one, is kind of similar to what it's in Dune, but I just felt like for more practicality in interacting with information and with data, I just thought it was a good idea to include it here. Then you can also see like the total monthly spending of the TEC, including working groups, different projects or external projects that have been funded, and some other expenses that are maybe still yet to categorize. Here's another interesting graph. This is the percentage of funds that working groups are actually using from their fundings proposals. And these were the last two that I've been working on. Gideon told me that it would be interesting to project based on the balances that each working group has. How many months could they run without having to ask another funding proposal? So you can check that on here with the different working groups. And also this one, it relates with this one, right? I based this one on Nate's document. I didn't know. I learned that there's an 11% spending cap. Maybe that has changed. So that's what I'm telling you. This is like a work in progress. But based on that spending cap, this is like the projected balance of the common pool and how the spending cap will also decrease over time from now. I think it's June all the way to December. So I think it's also an interesting exercise that is good to show. And I think I'll just leave it there. If you have any questions, feel free to comment on the document, or if you want to ask me anything, please do so. And I don't know if anyone has any questions right now, or I'll just give it back to Gideon.
I think that for the sake of time in this, if people could direct your questions into the Sampo channel, that'd be great. And I just want to thank both of you guys, both Rex and Bear, for this work. It's really good work, and I think it's an example of working groups being able to partner together in some really good ways, and I love it. And that dashboard, Bear, is not only beautiful, but like there's some really good information in there that is new for me, at least. I hadn't seen. I mean, there's going to be some really good insights that come out of that, I think. All right, next topic is.
Are there time for comments, or should we post async in the channel?
I think that what I'd love to do is, for that part of it, if you could post it in the channel, that would be great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good work, all. That data can pipe into the proposal inverter. That's what, but I'll write about that in the channel.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. I hadn't even thought about that. Okay, so the next topic is Treasury. And, this is, the first thing to note is that yesterday I went through and updated our funding request, and I want to share some of the assumptions with you all on this because I want to update our proposal and then get it basically put onto conviction voting, and so that we can actually start moving forward with this. So thanks to Angela and Trent, and actually a few other people, this question of the Treasury and kind of yield farming and how do we take advantage of all this money that we're sitting on top of right now.
Can I ask a question real quick? Just a clarifying question. What do we mean by Treasury? Are we referring to the common pool?
All of the money that we're sitting on, basically. And you'll see in just a sec. I mean, there are restrictions on that, right, that make it hard to get to. So we'll talk about that in a sec. But does that answer your question, or is that?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. So basically, these changes I'm talking about basically push the price tag for the proposal up by 2,300 DAI. And what I'm proposing here is that we basically add a part-time fund manager for 5 hours per week, and that would be heavily front-loaded. So this person would be spending more time in the first month or so, first month and a half of this 3.5-month funding proposal, and figuring out some of the things we're going to talk about in a second. And then also 800 DAI for basically researchers, fund researchers in bounties. And this would be kind of doing analysis on different investment opportunities. So the challenge, one of the reasons that we didn't get into this earlier on was, I think, just an oversight on my part. I had assumed that we could not get access to the money that's in our reserve, or the money that was in our common pool. And in talking to Griff and Mitch, they said, well, actually, that's not technically true. We could do that. And so one of the first things I think we probably, if we're trying to get at significant money, then the first place to look is a way of taking some out of the common pool without compromising our ability to do conviction voting. So there are a couple of ways of doing that. I don't know if we want to get into that right now, but the point is that doing that for the reserve fund would be much more technically challenging to do. So let me. So what this is proposing is that the first job would be to figure out, like, technically, and then also functionally, like in terms of operationally, how we would do this in a way that that wouldn't compromise our ability to actually do conviction voting. And then after that, assuming we can do it, which I think we can, then the question becomes, all right, is more traditional, like treasury management kinds of stuff, which is like investment policies, strategies, and then processes for making investments, particularly around risk and return kinds of questions. And, governance processes, which gets to the point that you're raising, Zepti, about, where, having these funds, having this many funds in a multi-sig account, what would that mean? So I'm going to stop here and turn this over, because I'd love to hear comments from people on just this, the funding proposal, like this idea of a part-time fund manager with some bounties for research, and then overall kind of what I've just been talking about. So
I just want to state that the fund manager, I think, is really important, and I think the research is really important. However, the decision space is so vast right now that there's such a vested interest by almost every stakeholder on what we do within the Sampo working group, and so I think this is something that's going to be magnified under a magnifying glass, and that almost every decision will have to be escalated to a community vote, and so it's going to be really challenging to narrow down the decision space. And I think that's really important to state. And that's all I wanted to contribute.
Some comments here from what I've seen in other DAOs. I think for the actual treasury management, meaning where to invest, when to get in and when to get out, this needs to happen pretty quickly. So to set this up in a way that it can, is able to act and react on what's going on the market, we need somebody who pays attention every single day. So this needs a role, a dedicated role. And second, this needs, let's say, an amount where we accept a fast and an independent decision. Like, so for example, okay, you have, I don't know, X amount spending limit at your own discretion, because it will never be fast enough if we put this to conviction voting. Plus, it's super important to be really deep in the weeds of this topic, and I don't expect anybody.
When watching the long tail
Sorry?
distribution, I'm trying.
Can we, I don't think Angela was quite done yet. Can you hold on just one sec, CryptoZac?
Sorry, I don't know if you can hear me well.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I didn't know I was on mute.
Sorry.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Number one, treasury management is important. It needs attention. Number two, has to have the freedom to act really fast. So we can't put any single investment decision to the conviction voting. That's just not practically feasible.
Yeah, but my question is like, are we trying to create a system that, it's regenerative and sustainable by itself, or we're just trying to get a trading body that takes money for us? Then, yeah, he give us some money just because he's trading. I think this is not what we meant to create.
Yeah, I don't think that we should have any traders manage this money. One option is to deposit it with a centralized custodian, such as Gemini, who could provide a fixed rate APY or variable rate API. I think they're paying around 8% interest on USDC right now.
But then this still requires somebody paying attention. I wouldn't feel comfortable with just trust that there won't be any problems, never, and we can just sit and wait without.
Yeah, if we keep the treasury in USDC, I don't think that we really need somebody paying attention day by day to what's going on in USDC, because if there's a problem with USDC, the whole industry is going to know about it pretty much immediately, because that will be shared and go viral if there is any problem with USDC.
Okay, then this would be a proposal to run it this way. I would love to have a closer look at the details. And
I think there's going to be a diversity of approaches for this. I think we're going to have an aggressive one. I think that's a good idea to have a single person to manage the aggressive funds to actually try to create some revenue from that in trading. But I do think we should set boundaries for that person. And so there's a lot of layers that we need to regulate in a lot of ways in order to make this work. And I do think we'll have those type of stablecoin options where we have a small portion of our treasury invested in stable APYs.
Oh, go ahead, Rex.
Yeah, it'll be quick, Andy. So I think it's a good idea to start talking about this treasury person or group, this initiative. The only question that I have is that if we're talking about a low risk investment, like CryptoZac said, 8% APY, how much impact is that going to have in our actual and current expenses? I don't think it's like a really short-term solution for what we're facing. I think it's great. I think we should have it, but it's not. It might be more of a parallel effort in my opinion, because I don't see it as a solution for the short term circumstances that we have. I pass it back to Enti.
Yeah, I was going to say something similar, and also that I guess we don't necessarily have to uh, pay an individual. Like there's groups. Uh, I just know about Copper Key that does treasury management for Gnosis, and also Yama who has done for Gitcoin and Aave, which may be worth just having a chat with them and considering options. Just that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be comfortable with it being just one person either, to be honest with you. I think that in the spirit of diversification, it should be multiple different people. There should be restriction and X% of the pool or the reserve or the etc.
Okay. Are there any other thoughts on this? I'll just share just a couple of quick thoughts on this. I think that, as I mentioned at the beginning, I think the first thing is a technical question, because until we solve that, we're not getting anything. So once we solve that, then I think that the next natural thing will be to actually put together a proposal, and that proposal. I mean, this is a big decision, right? Because we're putting our funds at risk. So that would be really the second step of the people who are involved in this work, would be to put together some kind of proposal for fund management.
Can we use token log?
And on that note, I do have a comment related, Nate. I think the objectives of this should be determined at the community level. Like, what do we actually want out of this? What's the goal? If we were to take this money and generate yield on it, okay, cool. How much can we realistically generate, and what do we want to do with that? How much of the money do we want to be generating yield? Or what are any other objectives that we might identify with this? So I think that should be discussed and governed at the community level, and then the Sampo team can go to work on all the implementation levels of that. And there's a whole foundational field of portfolio management theory. So it'd be really cool to get access to someone with a CFA. I know Mike DeMello performs these services at Longtail Financial. He's background in economics, and he just loves this stuff. So getting him in on this discussion is going to be interesting. But I think my main point is there's those two levels. What are the goals of this? And that's like at the community level, and then the whole implementation is its own thing.
Actually, I also want to comment on the technical side. I think I was chatting yesterday with Sam about what Nate talked about, making our token untransferable, and I was like, Sam, is that even possible? And he was like, yeah, with Ethereum CRISPR, you could even have like the same token address. So for Annie, technically, I think you should contact Sam and Blossom Labs, and they are actually pretty cheap, and they are the ones who build this common. So.
Okay. Man, these are all great comments. I think that we will be able to pull something together on this. And YGG, welcome. I hadn't had a chance to welcome you to the call. Welcome. It's good to have you here.
Thanks, Gideon. Awesome to be here. Great to see all this.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that I'm going to go ahead and modify the proposal and get it, put it back up on the forum. I talked to Libby about this, and she's like, it's been up there for 5 days, and that it's fine to modify and not have that reset the counter on it. So I think once we get this up there, I'll leave it up for a day and mention this change about the Treasury, and then we'll put it to conviction voting and try to get this passed as quickly as possible. Any last comments on this before we move on?
Use the agent.
Sorry, can you say that again?
Sorry.
I just say use the agent. Like we have an agent to control treasury money, and it's being unused, but we have it. Like same build it.
Yeah. Okay.
Just one comment on my side. I noticed next week, or we have in the notes next week, a discussion on service consulting intake process. And I know most of the conversation thus far has been around sort of like treasury management strategy. I'm also really eager to sort of ramp up the revenue production in terms of other like token engineering services, CAD services. I feel like there's so much latent demand by a bunch of groups out there. And I really see the TEC as a place that some of those collaborations can kind of be like guided to land for community consultation and bringing in other groups like Longtail Financial or Block Science or Curve Labs or et cetera, et cetera. So I'm eager to sort of explore some of the revenue bringing capabilities for the TEC as well, aside from just managing resources or treasury that we already have. So excited for those conversations when they come up.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're going to be coming up soon. I mean, some of these conversations are already starting, but we will be talking about them next week. So just to close this section out, my question is, who is interested in getting involved in this treasury issue? If you can just shout your name out, would be great.
I would love to provide modeling, be on a sort of a model. We have a lot of open source discounted cash flow models on open source on the Longtail org, so it'd be fun to throw these at this problem.
I'd like to develop on the technicalities, like how we are going to keep the treasury management.
Great.
Yeah, I'd love to participate as well.
Yeah, I'm happy to advise on it as well, although I don't have very much time to commit. But I do work with treasury management very frequently through my job in venture capital.
Okay.
I just want to make a statement. I think going into the reserve is a really, really bad idea. And so I'll just leave that there.
I think we're only talking about common pool.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't even know that it's technically possible. And if it is, it would require a lot of work. Besides being a kind of a dangerous precedent, probably. Yeah. Okay. Who else? Gene, did I see you flash your mic there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anybody else? So I've got YGG, Zepti, Zach, Gene. Anybody else interested in this?
I'd like to join the efforts, although I'm pretty risk averse. So.
Okay, that's probably good. Okay. All right. Thanks everybody for that. That's a lot of good input. We have 5 minutes left on this call. I just wanted to give a quick update on the services part of this conversation. The kind of the first area that we're digging into, and Tam has been leading the charge so far, but I'm starting to dig into it too, is really, it's like a consulting intake service. Basically, we get a lot of requests for services, and so we're looking at how to do that in a very lightweight way that's realistic. And there's some challenges with this, particularly related to the fact that there's way more demand than there is supply for token engineering services. But we still think that there's something here and that it's good to get started on this. Even if we may not make a ton of money in the beginning, we will learn and we will eventually make money here, I think. So that's the first one. The second area that we're starting to look at, I've been talking to Santi about an NFT, some kind of cool ideas for an NFT campaign that would hopefully make some money in the short term as we're ramping up on some of these services and being able to tell our story about these services. And it would also spread awareness about and understanding about token engineering. So we'll talk more about that maybe next week. But it has to do with this idea of a token engineering hall of fame and building like NFT collections around people who know that they're token engineering professionals, and also people who are token engineering professionals, even though they may not call themselves that. So more on that later. And as for next week, the things that I have down already in terms of things we want to talk about are one, Clarity, which is for those of you who are new, Clarity is the kind of project management and wiki tool that we use for organizing ourselves here. They are tomorrow doing a major release update. And so we're going to be doing some rework on the kind of the way we handle project flow here. And we'll be hopefully talking about that next week. A little bit more on this consulting intake process service idea. And then I also would like to talk about the work style. One of the things that's in the manifesto we haven't talked about yet, but it's like, what is the style or philosophy of working in Sampo? And I have some ideas that I would like to explore with you all next week around that. Because I'd like to use Sampo as kind of a lab for experimenting with some new approaches for making make this like a real example of permissionless workflow, so that it's very easy for people to come in and plug in and find work to do as volunteers, be able to reward them using praise, and then be able to kind of help people develop, and then eventually, get into bounties, and then if they really prove themselves, then be able to actually longer term, when we're starting to make money, be an organizer who is actually maybe drawing a salary longer term, part-time and maybe full-time, longer term. So I just want to talk about some of the, I want to get your input on some of these ideas for like accountability and those kinds of things. So we'll be talking about that next week. And if anybody has in the last minute, if there's anything that people think we should add to the agenda for next week, any thoughts?
I have one quick question, if I can squeeze in.
Yeah.
To Rex, I wasn't sure about this when you were presenting, but I was just doing some background research. The flows coming off the common pool, I didn't see the proposal inverter in there, which was 30,000 wrapped XDAI. I'm wondering why it might not be included, if that was automatically generated, or if you had to go in there one by one and add proposals, or maybe I misunderstood the chart. Probably not enough time to answer that, but feel free to try or post in the channel.
Maybe just so we can wrap up on time because it's 2 o'clock right now. If you can just, Rex, maybe you can reply in the channel. That would be great.
Thank you.
Okay. Everybody, hey, thanks so much. Very lively call. I appreciate you all taking time to come, especially those of you who are showing up when it's very late your time. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Leon.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.